So Grandma was working a farm back in the 20s and 30s and living with my grandfather and 3 kids. And she started making bootleg whiskey. It was something that she did out of necessity. You know, Grandma wasn't out there making millions of dollars bootlegging whiskey. She was out there bootlegging whiskey to feed her kids. So it was a great story. I think I have the only bootlegging grandma in the history of Iowa and maybe the United States for 1930 era. Back in the 30s, the Prohibition agents were actively seeking bootleggers in Templeton. There were numerous families and farms supporting themselves by making whiskey. And my grandma and grandpa were one of those families. There's a lot of people that would allege, and for that matter, it is common knowledge that spirits from the Templeton area were being distributed out of Chicago through organized crime. And it's really how it became so popular. I know spirits out of the Templeton area were preferred by Al Capone. It was alleged to be his favorite whiskey. Now, mind you, there was 30 farms probably making product. So as one farm would get busted, another farm would pop up. And even though it was federally illegal, you know, the 18th Amendment was passed and everything was supposed to be dry, the Catholics in Templeton and Carroll didn't believe in that. So they would refuse to convict, even when caught red-handed. Not that my grandmother was ever caught. She is one of the few lucky, smart, whatever you want to call it, who never got caught. They did bust a farm just down the road, wrong farm, and the way they hid the stills is they'd put it out in a cornfield, and they needed water, so they located it really close to a well and a creek. They used that water to cool the spirits and turn it into liquid when it's a vapor. But what was neat about what they did, and Grandma told me this back in the day, is they would build a stilt type of process, hide the still under the wooden stilts, and then put a layer of dirt and grow corn on top of that stilt process so that it would hide it from any aerial surveillance. And they did that for years. And then what I thought was kind of neat is my grandma on the side was making what I call a baker's version of it. And we talked about that a little bit, the uniqueness of her processes. Many of these processes patent pending that make a natural, non-enzyme, pure spirit that I believe to be unparalleled. Many use 40 and 50 and 60 gallon barrels. And when Rich's family, you know, Whiskey Rich here, his family interviewed my grandma in her 90s, they brought a recipe that they thought was accurate to the whiskey being manufactured in Templeton, Iowa. And there's 4 or 5, 6 recipes out there. And my grandma took their recipe and just started putting lines, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And one of the things they had wrong that she was adamant about is they had 40-gallon barrels. But we will always be 15-gallon drum.
It's made exactly like she did 100 years ago, you know. Had one gentleman that wanted to buy this at one time and mass produce the white. And I told him, I won't do that because you take your grandma's recipe that you like the best for eating dinner and make that for 10,000 people. It won't taste the same, and I'm not going to do it. When you drink this whiskey, you're going home for Thanksgiving dinner. When you drink everything else, you're going through a fast food restaurant. I'll put it up against anything on purity, anything. There's not a whiskey on the market this pure, and there's nothing that'll mix this good. Hell, it's the best damn whiskey out there, and I challenge anybody. I'll run a taste test with anybody. I don't care who they are.
And everything is era-specific, and it will always be era-specific because we believe there's magic in that formula. And just try our product. You'll see, you'll feel the magic. You'll taste the magic. You'll come back for more magic. It's just like that.